Oh my God, what to think of those Oscars? And thank God they're over. Let's ask Chris Beachum, our managing editor, Daniel Montgomery, our senior editor, Joyce Eng, senior editor, Marcus Dixon, and our executive editor, Paul Sheehan. I'll just start off with this observation that it was a surprising show in that there was a return to prediction normalcy. Shape of Water won. It was the least divisive film. We now have the movie with the most nominations winning again. We now have Best Picture and Director lining up again, like in the old days. And all four of the acting and the directing winners are repeated here. It was virtually an unprecedented sweep of the major awards by the same contenders. And I'm a little sad that my Three Billboards didn't pull it off in the end, but I'm sure it did well in the vote tally. Joyce, Daniel, and Paul tied for the best score among our editors. Congratulations. And Joyce is the best expert among the PMC employees. Congratulations to Adnan Virk of ESPN for having the best predictions overall. And Chris, who came in tops among our users?
Oh, don't ask me that, Pamela.
Well, there's five people.
Five of them. Five
just missed one. Just missed one each.
And we have to figure out which of those five had Shape of Water. Because, Tom, you said it's a return to normalcy, but our odds were saying Three Billboards was going to win Best Picture. The majority of experts did. So of all of us, I mean, the three of us that did the best among the editors, Daniel was the only one to stick with Shape of Water. So, Daniel, why did you not get swayed? Why did you not get swayed by the popular opinion for Three Billboards?
After BAFTA, let me just say this. Previous to BAFTA, the majority of the experts at Gold Derby did have Shape of Water. BAFTA set off this tide that took us to Three Billboards. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, BAFTA was something I didn't entirely discount. I thought we all knew because it so overperformed there in the nominations. It even got a cinematography nomination at the BAFTAs. That Three Billboards could win BAFTA. So I thought, if it wins Best Picture, that won't be a surprise at BAFTA. Like if it goes crazy and wins Best Director at the BAFTAs, then I'll switch. But BAFTAs did to the predictions in general what they did with The Revenant and what they did with Boyhood to an extent that was still a close race with Birdman and what Everything did with La La Land. And so everyone kind of followed BAFTA. And so while Three Billboards had as much, if not more, going for it than Shape of Water, BAFTA was not something I was going to use to sway me.
I foolishly let BAFTA sway me, even on the one category that I wanted to go out on a limb on, best film editing. I went with Baby Driver because BAFTA did. And that was stupid. Among the predictions that I truly regret, that was dumb.
I regret documentary. I had Icarus forever for several reasons. Like, it's so timely. It's about the anti-Russian, animosity that's going on. It's about the Olympics. And it was just a really good documentary. And I followed the herd. I went with Faces Places, just like everyone else in the world was. And I missed that.
Well, I didn't switch to Faces until after the Spirit Awards. I thought if a kindly, nice documentary like Faces Places can win at the Spirit Awards, where they want that controversy and they want, I just thought it is going to win the Oscars, like our predictions are saying.
It's interesting, I switched away from Faces Places to Icarus, and because I was thinking, well, they gave her an honorary award, so they'll feel like they already did it. And I'm so glad that only afterwards did I read Charlie Bright's article with all the people that get honorary awards and real Oscars in the same year, and it was about a dozen people. And it's like, oh, I'm glad I sort of, at that point, it was too late to switch back. I made a couple of dumb little mistakes at the end, and we were just talking about titles and how positive titles can kind of reflect when there's going to be a winner. Like Marcus was saying, well, of course, a Fantastic Woman's going to win foreign language. Why would you think The Insult was going to win, this negative thing? Or Tom, when we were talking about best documentary short, how you said Heaven is a traffic jam on the 405. The title alone is is so
I
compelling.
got that right, hallelujah. The one short I got wrong was Silent Child. It was the only one I hadn't seen, and I don't know why I missed it. And then the minute I saw that people like Tariq Khan and other smart Oscarologists were picking it, I'm going, oh, what a fool I am! Of course,
I wanted to predict that, and this sounds horrible to say, but if Parkland hadn't happened, I would have predicted Silent Child, because that was totally in line with what they usually award in that category, like stutterer, like cute child, like, you know, some sort of disability.
So there's a lot of talk. I mean, we as Joyce, you wrote so well about the sweeps of in acting, the 4 awards. These people had won everything from the outset. But there's so much. The reviews today for the telecast are pretty downbeat. I mean, Mark Harris really skewers it, and I guess I was watching a different Oscars. I thought
they write these things in advance, and then they just fill it. It's like Mad Libs. They just fill in the blanks of what actually happened. I always know they're going to do that. It's just like we were talking last night on the post show. We knew, even though Gary Oldman was not winning any of those critics awards, non-televised, like individual, like New York and LA and things like that, we knew he was going to take off when the TV awards started. Just the same way with these telecasts, you know exactly what the review is going to be before they write it.
Chris, you have, I mean, Tom's got the most extensive private awards collection other than the EGOT winners, and Robert Lopez has now 2 of everything. But Chris, you've got this catalog of award shows dating back, you know, to the pre-VCR days. What did you think of the Oscars as a telecast?
I went in a little skeptical because I looking at the presenter list on Friday, I just thought there's nobody here that excites me all that much. You had some legends, but they weren't, you know, top of the line legends like a Jack Nicholson.
Wow. Correct.
Well, Rita Moreno and Eva Marie Saint, the vast majority of the audience does not know who they are. They did a wonderful job, but I'm just saying off the list that we saw on paper, I just didn't expect a whole lot. And then they said about the Emma Stone wasn't going to get to do actor. And it just felt like, oh, they're trying too hard to be something they're not. But I was impressed with the show. It was a very good looking show. I thought Jimmy Kimmel was even more relaxed in his first 10 minutes than he was the year before. It felt like a real monologue, like a Billy Crystal monologue without the song. And I thought the presentation for the most part was really good all night. What did you others think?
I hated most of the show because of that namby-pamby presenter's dribble they had up there, where they would just get up there and then just read off the teleprompter, all the presenters. Oh, diversity is something that makes America great, and blah, all that bullshit. It was, yes, these things needed to be said. They could have found a better way to say it. This is the world capital of script writing, for God's sake. These are people who are professionals in entertainment and presentation. That was so annoying all night long. These really
one of the big mistakes I think all of these televised shows make, to me, when you put 2 presenters out there that maybe you're meeting for the first time that weekend. I mean, you've already dropped the level of ability for them to have a conversation on stage right away. To me, I would always pair up 2 people that have worked together, or they're best buddies, I think I don't even know how well they know each other, but Maya Rudolph and Tiffany Haddish were the best last night because they got out there.
Paul Thomas Anderson wants to work with Tiffany Haddish and gave her his number, so they probably met already.
Their whole thing, and they're comedians, so it really was fun when they were out there.
I just realized something. You have Daniel Day-Lewis, you have Meryl Streep in the same room. Why not have them present? They're both in the Three Timers Club. Jack Nicholson, they could have called him. He's probably just sitting at home watching Lakers reruns or something. Why not do something special with those 2?
Well, I also wonder, like, how many people just turned them down. Like, Meryl had never presented a competitive award until 5 years ago. So I feel like they might try to ask people.
They don't know. This is one of the shows where they don't know who's winning, and especially they know the lay of the land in terms of, like the 4 actors are probably going to win based off of things like our website and all the other award shows. But for example, they didn't know Jordan Peele was going to win screenplay. So to celebrate the year, Jordan Peele should be up there presenting an award. Timothy Chalamet should be presenting the introducing the guy from the song from his movie. Involve more of the nominees, especially if you're concerned that they might not be getting up on stage at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, Chris, you must have liked what I did, the little short Academy films, and also what was so nice is acknowledging some of the past winners in those the clips, the preview clips for the 4 acting races, and it was just nice to see.
Well, that was very smart on their end, because there's been so many times, including last year, where to introduce, say, an acting race, it was just clips of them winning at the Oscars, getting their award, saying the same thing we hear almost year after year. I like the fact that they showed clips this time of them in their roles that won them Oscars. That was very smart.
One thing, I mean, Joyce, the newest addition to our editors, but as Tom said, is also an expert. And one thing she's an expert on is birthdays and ages. So Joyce just wrote this wonderful item about the ages of the 4 acting winners. But what I really liked about it, Joyce, was you also give a shout out to the youngest class of winners, which happened to include somebody who presented last night, right?
Yeah, Rita Moreno. She was part of the class of 1961, which they have the youngest average. It's 28.75 years. They were all born like within 4 years of each other. So they're the youngest, and the oldest is the class of 81, because you had 3 70-somethings winning and a 56-year-old. So this class is the second oldest, because they average 56.5 years.
Rita Moreno, let me get this in here. Rita Moreno is among the people who have said in the past that winning an Oscar was a curse on her career. Gwyneth Paltrow, Joan Fontaine are among the others who say they regret having won the Oscar, because in the case of Rita Moreno, she said, all I was offered for 10 years after the Oscars were similar roles of Latino Spitfires, like she was in West Side Story. She said, I just stopped acting completely for 10 years and just walked away. You see people like Diane Wiest, who won 2 Oscars, and she said famously, all that ever got me was free champagne in a restaurant, for a couple of days after the Oscars. That's how good those awards are. I think in Wiest's case, she eventually, a couple of years ago, was having trouble meeting her rent in New York and had to switch apartments. That's how close she's living to subsistence. But she's got 2 Oscars.
But I don't think any one of those Oscar winners would trade it.
No, of course not.
No,
but Rita Moreno had made a big deal out of what a curse the Oscar was in her career. And there she was last night. And I was glad that she embraced.
One, just a complete aside, which was, I thought it was it amused me that they showed a clip of her from West Side Story where she's being dubbed. So it's the singing that she does in West Side Story, that ain't her, kids.
It's not. I didn't know that.
So the dancing, which they didn't show, that was her. Those were her legs flying through the air. But the voice, the notes flying through the air, not hers. So Joyce, did you regardless of, and you did so well with the score. I mean, you switched to 3 billboards at the last minute. But did you like the show itself?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I felt like there wasn't as much pomp and circumstance about the fact that it was the 90th anniversary. Like I think I was expecting more celebration for that. Like they had a bunch of montages. The military one was weird, but I'm a sucker for montages, so I love them. I thought it was kind of scattered throughout how they honored the past winners. Like it just seemed like they were able to book like those 3 people, these legends, and then they had like the clip of their award-winning film before they came out to present. Like I felt like it needed more of that, and so I don't know if it's just an issue of like booking people and trying to make time for like the Me Too segment with Annabella Sciorra and Ashley Judd and Salma Hayek presenting. Like I think they were trying to balance like a lot of things, and I don't know if they would have done more to recognize the fact that it was the 90th anniversary.
Well, Chris, you did. I mean, boy, you worked and worked, and you came up with a list for these producers of every single living Oscar winner. Did you, when they announced Eva Marie Saint was going to be there, were you expecting she'd be introducing a family album like it'd been done for twice before for anniversaries?
I thought it was possible, but then late in the week, two things. Social media really wasn't around the last two times they did this. I thought if this was happening, I think we would be getting whispers of it. Certain people that would never be going to the Oscar necessarily saying, "Hey, I'm going to the Oscars." And then Reese Witherspoon posted on her Twitter account, I think it was on Saturday, just innocuous, but it was something like, "Good luck to all the Oscar nominees. I'll be watching you in my PJs." And I thought, if Reese Witherspoon, who loves going to these things, is saying that she's not going to be there, then they're not doing a family album.
Those also take up like 15 minutes, and the show last night was almost 4 hours.
Well, they could have not gone to the theater next door, and there's your 15 minutes.
It wasn't almost 4 hours. It was like 3:40. I mean, everyone's saying almost 4. It's like, no.
It was 3:38 or something.
Yeah. Marcus, what did you think of the 5 song performances? You loved Remember Me from Coco. What did you think of the rest of them?
2 of them just knocked me over. They were so good. Coco and This Is Me. Keala Settle is, somebody on the telecast stole my joke about she deserves an Emmy for her performance on the Oscars. It was so good. And the difference between her performance and the one before, which was the Common one. Remember, Common had all the people in the background that just kind of stood there. I thought they were doing the same thing again with the This Is Me, and then all of a sudden all those people started dancing and singing as well. It was amazing.
It built beautifully, that whole number.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, Marcus, you bemoaned amongst us last night some of your switches and predictions. So which one did you get right that surprised you, Marcus?
I was happy I stuck with Blade Runner for visual effects, because I just knew this Planet of the Apes thing wasn't happening. The voters they don't go bananas for this like some of these other awards groups do.
Pun intended.
Yeah, absolutely. Always with me. And so I had a feeling that would happen. There was one I went out on a limb with, along with I think Chris, which was I thought Roger Deakins would lose for the 14th time. I thought Shape of Water would win, because for the past 5 years, whoever won Best Director, that film also won cinematography. So we knew Shape of Water was winning director. So that's why I thought Shape of Water was going to win cinematography too. I mean, I'm happy for Deakins.
Now, Tom, I mean, the Gold Derby effect, I mean, in terms of things like this, because what's surprising, I think, to a lot of people is, other than the actors and director, I think the screenwriters, the names aren't on the ballot. People don't know for cinematography that it's Roger Deakins for Blade.
Right. The screenwriters are on the ballot, and once you go south of that, it's all just movie titles, right? And so, yeah, it's.
Do you think that the Gold Derby and sites talking about the fact that?
Yeah, I think people are really attuned to that, and all the parties that happen now, and all the Q&As and stuff. There's a discussion going on, and I think there was an awareness on Roger Deakins' part, but also I think Blade Runner just is that kind of movie that tends to win. It's I understand why it did so well. So I think he had that going for him.
So what, again, back to, I'm curious, Chris, because you love these award shows, the best speech of the night. What was the best speech for you, Chris?
Oh, it would have to be Frances McDormand. I think expectations were high for her because she always delivers, and then she even surpassed those. She got to be, look, the shot of her, I knew something good was about to happen when it goes to the shot of her and they say her name. She looked nervous, and you never see her look nervous. I don't know if it was because she knew what she was about to do on stage, or if it really meant a lot to her, unlike, say, a Globe or SAG or BAFTA, to get into the 2-time Oscar winner club. I don't know, but she actually looked a little bit shaky and nervous there. And then she got on stage and just really delivered. It was emotional. It tied into all the other things that people were talking about all night and all season. Then having everybody stand up, all the women stand up. She just knows what she's doing.
I really let me jump in here. I really like that. I thought she handled it beautifully. And the episode of going to the movie theater across the street both had potential to crash and be absolute disasters, but it worked. I was really thrilled for everybody concerned. The two acceptance speeches that I want to comment on, one was Allison Janney. Her intensity was marvelous. Boy, she was in the zone, and she was meaning every word she was saying, and she was throwing off sparks. What she was saying wasn't so great, but the way she said it, the passion, that's what you want to see in the Oscar winners. And boy, Gary Oldman was fucking it up right and left. He went off a cliff. He's going here. And you're like, oh God, get off the stage, Gary. And then he did one of those classic Oscar moments where he brought it all around and redeemed himself, and I think gave us one of the greatest acceptance speeches of all when he ended with, "Ma, put the kettle on. I'm bringing Oscar home."
And
yes, loved it.
And Tom, like as I pointed out to you, the fact that it was Jane Fonda presenting him with the award, and Chris will remember this, but these children that are our colleagues won't. That when she accepted her father's Oscar for On Golden Pond, the film she produced for him, that he won his only Oscar. And that's exactly what she says to him into the camera. Dad, we're coming over with the Oscar.
And I'll be right over.
Yeah. So I just love the synchronicity.
Moments where you bring it all together. Real life with the moments in history like that. That night that Paul's talking about, Henry Fonda was homesick. He was in his late 80s or mid 80s. Dying, yeah. And so they don't normally let you have someone else accept your award from the old days of Sasha and Little Feather. They discourage that now, and they just don't bother. But they made an exception in Jane's case, and when she held up, and we know that she and her father duked it out their whole lives. It was a really tumultuous family relationship. But when she said, Dad, me and the kids will be right over, and she was waving that Oscar, it was a great moment.
So, Marcus, that reminds me. So, Katharine Hepburn has 4 Best Actress Oscars. Your dear Meryl Streep has 2.5.
Yes, she lost her 18th Oscar last night, which is, she crushed her own record.
Loser.
Biggest acting loser of all time. Sorry, Meryl. That sucks to be.
Write her off. She's a has-been. Yeah.
Back to Francis. What?
Joyce, I wanted to ask Joyce, though, you referenced the fact that I guess the only time she's presented a competitive award is when she was kind of following that tradition. She had won for Iron Lady the year before and presents Best Actor, right? Why do you think it is that she's demurred from doing any competitive awards, including Best Picture?
I don't know. I mean, well, last year she presented, I think, cinematography with Javier Bardem after they did like that pairing of actors talking about their inspiration. So I feel like back in the old days, they didn't have that tradition yet of like the winner presenting the opposite gender yet. I think that started kind of like in the late 80s, early 90s. And she won her first 2 in the 70s and 80s. So I don't know if she's just turned them down or like she just, I mean, like she was there most of the time, like as a nominee. So I don't know. But maybe now like she did 2 years in a row the past 2 years, so maybe she'll start a new trend. She didn't do it this year, but
that seat is reserved for her. It says reserved Meryl Streep in the front row of the.
She has the Jack Nicholson seat now.
Yes, that's right. And with that bright red dress on, she almost cued everyone when they should stand up. She jumped to her feet first for so many people. So anyway,
Francis said it too. Meryl, if you stand up, everyone else will stand up.
At first, I thought Francis was going to bring them on stage. I thought she was going to bring the 4 losers on stage. Kind of like, remember the Emmys did that when Melissa McCarthy won. It was like the beauty pageant.
Well, they did that before they announced the winners. Yeah. Like that was.
I just want to point out that, and I was curious. After all those women stood up, I thought, well, how many of them are holding Oscars? So, other than the 2 acting winners, only 4 women won Academy Awards last night. 32 men, 4 women. That's where we're at. And there's 3 categories that there were no female nominees, score and visual effects and one of the sound ones. So that's the state of things right now. So it's great. Rachel Morrison made history by being the first cinematographer nominated, but 4 women.
Terrible. I think it was very brave of them to mention Harvey Weinstein in a negative way. I thought they were going to avoid that in favor of more just kind of flip jokes, but that was hard hitting to open the ceremony with. That was really something. And I think they did a tasteful job bringing the Me Too Time's Up theme in throughout the show, but the writing was so bad. I think it was annoying.
Do you think, Tom, I mean, as I said, Chris and you and me have been kicking around a bit longer. So why are the ratings will probably be the lowest ever? Is it driven really, is it next year, please nominate Black Panther for Best Picture? Is it, you've got to have your Titanics and Lords of the Ring in there to get the people to tune in, especially these days?
There is a parallel between the most viewed Oscar shows and the big blockbusters competing. I think the Titanic is still the most viewed Oscar show, or certainly one of the most viewed, and Lord of the Rings, that actually happens. But there's no changing what the new pattern is in winners, which is the art house winning films do best here ever since the screeners first started being distributed in the late 80s. That's because in the old days, they saw the blockbusters and they voted for Airport and Jaws and Towering Inferno. But they didn't see the art house movies because it meant that they would have to get in their car across town, sit in a little screening room, and do that times 50 or 60 little films. But when screeners came and they actually saw them, this snob appeal factor took place, and now we have a different crop of winners happening. I think that that's here to stay. But when they do make choices like they did last night, Shape of Water and Three Billboards, these are really magnificent films. Magnificent movies that deserve all the love they get. I was surprised Three Billboards lost screenplay, by the way. I just didn't buy the whole Get Out for screenplay because of the snob appeal argument. I thought, if there's one thing, remember Precious won one of the screenplay ones, that there's this kind of literary edginess that is rewarded in these categories, and that Get Out would be hurt in the screenplay race because of its comedic horror nature. But I was glad to see it, but once it happened, I just thought, that's the nail in the coffin of Three Billboards for Best Picture. It ain't winning.
Oh, it's interesting. Sometimes you just have to ask and you'll get. So about a decade ago, Frances McDormand went to see one of Martin McDonagh's plays. He's a playwright before he was a filmmaker. And she said, you should write something for me. And so it took him about a decade, and he wrote this role. And then, of course, being Frances McDormand, she immediately said, no, I'm too old. I'm too old to play that woman. And he convinced her, and I'm sure she's glad now that
she lives up in the Northwest in some remote area. She didn't campaign. Again, we have Gary Oldman, who actually Gary Oldman was around. He would campaign more than he impressed everyone. He was on the ground, but Laurie Metcalf didn't, of course. But the fact that we have a winner for actress who just didn't campaign, that's in the tradition of Monique and Mark Rylance saying, I don't need to campaign. I can win anyway. They can.
And Sean Penn, she's kind of the female Sean Penn.
And then you have the flip side, the Eddie Redmaynes, who win because of the campaign, or Spotlight winning because they had such a great ground game. There is no one rule.
Daniel, you made this observation a few weeks ago in a kind of about the Golden Globes and your opinion of the Golden Globes vis-a-vis the Oscars.
Well, it really felt like, the members of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association should be patting themselves on the back for really voting for the Oscars this year, because the way voting laid out is, the Golden Globes happened, then voting for Critics' Choice happened immediately after, and that influenced the Critics' Choice. And then SAG Awards happened, and those were influenced by the first two. And then BAFTA happened, and those were influenced by the first three. And so when the Golden Globes picked certain people, they picked the Oscar winners in most cases, not Best Picture for Three Billboards, but in all the acting races and director and score, everyone just kind of fell in line behind them. Some, I'm guessing, were just predicting, wanted to predict what the Oscars were going to do. Others, I think, there's a sense of, I really like Allison Janney, and I really like her performance, and you see her win stuff, and you don't want to leave her out, and then you give her another award. And so the steamroller kept going on.
So we talked about so many winners. I am curious, and Chris, it's a film that, as you pointed out, after it screened in New York, it was a film all of us really liked, if not loved, Lady Bird, and it laid an egg. So why did that happen?
I don't think it had anything to do with the movie. I think sometimes things line up a certain way, and it's just not your year. It's not your moment. It's not your. I look back at something like I always mention this, but like Colin Firth, the year before he won an Oscar, he was just getting steamrolled almost everywhere that year by Jeff Bridges. But he was the good soldier. He still went to all the awards. He was still Mr. Charming. Like most of these people, they realize, I'm not going to win this year, but I'm setting myself up for the next time I have a great project. And I think that's really smart. And I hope that the Lady Bird people take it that way. It just turned out that we thought Allison and Laurie would just go back and forth at these shows, and they didn't. Jordan Peele became the actor we love, has turned into a director, writer, and he sort of bypassed Greta in that regard. I think if Get Out had not existed and Jordan had not existed, I think Greta would have won the screenplay award last
Or
night.
if Lady Bird were adapted.
Well, if any of those were, Shape of Water could have won screenplay if it was adapted last night.
So it was Barack Obama versus Hillary Clinton playing out at the Oscars.
A little bit. It wasn't going to be the kind of movie, no matter what, even if it had won Best Picture, it was not going to get a lot of nominations because there's nothing technical about it that you would vote for.
Yeah, like the only below the line nomination it could have gotten was editing.
So,
and speaking of Colin Firth, it's interesting because Saoirse Ronan, I believe she's got a movie coming up where she plays Mary, Queen of Scots.
Right.
So
with Margot Robbie.
Yeah, so she was the good soldier now on her third nomination, and like Colin Firth, she's gonna play like a really important figure in British history, and it'll be her fourth nomination if it all pans out for this
People
film.
remember these things. Think about how many times we've seen somebody go through the cycle, and then they win. They have to be good about it, though. She couldn't just start skipping award shows or acting like she didn't care. But yeah, the next Saoirse Ronan will have a fourth Oscar nomination for either that or maybe the movie after that, somewhere in the next 2 or 3 years. And
she'll be like 25, which is just right in the sweet spot.
And like Kate Winslet, got to 6, and people were just like, just give her an award. We don't even care what the movie is.
And then the reader came.
Even if it's the reader, let's just give her an Oscar. This is getting ridiculous. So that's what's going to happen with Saoirse. Saoirse might win for something.
Saoirse needs a Time magazine cover that says Best Actress.
So, Tom, one thing among the other sort of, you've sort of written so extensively about the Oscars, and one of your favorite lines is what Kate Hepburn said about her 4 Oscars. What did she have to say about winning Oscars?
Oh, she said that you always win for the role that doesn't rate it. Here's Oscar's biggest winner saying you win for the wrong movies. But yet, on the other hand, when she made that comment, it was to the other Hepburn, Audrey, upon losing for My Fair Lady. She was not even nominated, right? Correct. And then she said, well, don't let it bother. But Audrey had already won for Roman Holiday. Katharine Hepburn was so stupid. She was just saying, oh, yes, you'll win an Oscar someday, when she had it. So, but yeah, you always end up winning for the wrong role. I think, you look at Hepburn's career, she did win for her best role, The Lion and Winter, but she only won half of it because of that bitch Babs. Paul will never forgive me for saying that. But I don't know.
This was a good year. I think all 4 people really deserved it. Not that others didn't deserve it, but these 4 really had strong roles, and I love it when they have the career too to go with it. So that I just can't hardly stand a first-time winner.
Hey,
all veterans, we didn't have the ingenue Jennifer Lawrence type.
Joyce, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but with your sort of abilities. Allison Janney and Sam Rockwell, these veterans getting their first nominations, is that kind of a guarantee, like that gives you an edge when it comes to winning an Oscar if you've sort of been kicking around for a while and you finally get a nomination?
Definitely in supporting categories, like, you have a lot of like septuagenarians winning and supporting actors especially. So the supporting categories definitely favor the veteran and the older character actors. I don't have a list of all of them in front of me, but you know, like they're both also just beloved by the industry. Like no one hates either Allison Janney or Sam Rockwell. So I think they had the flashy performances, they're veteran character actors, and they're beloved. So it was just like the perfect storm for both of them.
But to Daniel's point about the Golden Globes sort of endorsing what was going to happen, because you could make those same arguments for Laurie Metcalf and Willem Dafoe, who started when you launched the Prediction Center back in August. It was Laurie Metcalf, Willem Dafoe. Wasn't Dunkirk going to win picture?
Dunkirk. Everybody was on Dunkirk except for a couple of us.
Hmm. What rules did we learn this year? Because remember last year we said if a movie gets snubbed by SAG Ensemble, it can't win Best Picture. Well, we know that's wrong. So what rule this year are we going to have to follow?
I think you can win without a directing nomination, but you need the PGA win because that's what both Driving Miss Daisy and Argo had, and Three Billboards lost PGA.
Okay.
And I think you need, especially if you don't have that directing nomination, I think you need to win the writing award. Like, when Three Billboards lost, I thought original screenplay was going to decide what the two-way race was going to be. It's like whatever wins screenplay, it's going to be that or Shape of Water potentially for Best Picture, because every film since Chicago, like 15 years ago, has won. Every Best Picture winner has won writing, directing, or both. And so Three Billboards wasn't an option. And so if it really had enough support to win Best Picture, I thought, if it's going to rank high enough on enough ballots for Best Picture, it's going to have enough support for original screenplay. So that's when I thought, okay, it's probably Shape of Water versus. I actually thought that envelope was opening. I'm like thinking, Get Out might be happening right now.
Oh, so Daniel, we made a point of saying at the outset that you really, of the three of us, you made a point of telling us you went 8 for 8 at the top. So where did
I was trying to be modest because I was saying I totally bombed my my best short film because I made a point of watching all the shorts and then I got all of them wrong.
So you got those 3 wrong, and what was your 4th errand prediction?
It was documentary feature. I in hindsight, I should, because I was skeptical about Faces Places, but I didn't know where to go from there, so I stuck with Faces Places, and it was also heartwarming, so I thought they would go with that, but foreign language documentaries just generally don't win. And I should have looked back, just done a quick look back at history. It's like Icarus fits like a glove. It's Taxi to the Dark Side. It's Inside Job. It's those exposés. It's Citizen4. It's those exposés about corruption.
So yeah. Tom, isn't it? We've talked about this before, and with just shy of 7,000 people making predictions, isn't it astonishing that not a single person got 24 out of 24, and never has in the history of Gold?
It's astounding when you think about it.
The combinations, even though, as I think Daniel, you said, a lot of those things that won were maybe in second place in our odds or something. It was just, but nobody's ever come up with that perfect combination yet.
I have a question for Chris. Chris, we knew that Billboards was in trouble when you did your interviews with 7 Oscar voters, and we didn't see a single Billboard vote there, and only a couple of them had Billboards in the second or third position. But yet you went with Billboards. Were you? Tell me what you learned about the. Now that you know what happened when the envelopes were open, and now that you've spoken with all those voters and you know what they said, what did you learn? What did we learn as a result of that process of talking to 7 voters?
Well, I talked myself into 3 Billboards over the weekend, and one of the things I was thinking about was the people that I had interviewed, and I explained it away in my mind in terms of them not picking that. It just, it's only 7 people. I mean, I'm only talking to 7 people. So that's how I messed that up. They did not one picked it first, and I think only 2 out of the 7 even had it ranked in the top 3. I should have paid more attention to that. And here was the other thing about the Shape of Water people. They were rapturous about it. When anybody would talk about any other movie, if they had Dunkirk in first, it would be about, it's the technical achievement and Christopher Nolan and it's a war movie. It was almost like they were just, very like they were reading medical language or something. But it was the Shape of Water people who mentioned that was their first, or even if they would mention that it was in their second or third, or mention Guillermo and director, they would just, oh, that's a slam dunk. There's nothing else this year that made me as happy as that. One of them said, I think it was voter number 7 said, I got the screener in, and people said, he said, this is only a movie you should see in a theater. He said, I refuse to let people watch this screener in my house. I told them, if you want to go see it, we'll go see it in the theater. So that's how people were feeling about that movie.
I know. We should have paid attention to that.
Well, live and learn. So so Chris, I know you worked so hard setting up the Oscar Prediction Center last summer, and now you just spent the month of February getting the Emmy Prediction Center going, right? That's been launched. So
yeah, January and February, and it is launched 16 categories. We'll add more categories, but we're out meeting now with starting this week with all of the networks and studios. So they'll let us know, oh, you've got this one in lead, they should be supporting, or this is drama, not a limited series. We found that out about Trust this weekend. The J. Paul Getty, Donald Sutherland was in limited series when I launched, but it's now over in drama. So we'll get things cleaned up. It's 4 months before nominations come out. So it's like come in regularly and make your updates.
And like I always say, because somebody watching this will do better than all of us when it comes to making those predictions. So, well, it was fun. It was fun this season, wasn't it, Tom? I mean, it may not have worked out according to your plan.
No, I've got to stop being emotionally invested in things. But since I had planted my flag for 3 billboards back in November before any awards, I felt that, and since it was obviously within striking distance and could win, I was obliged to stick by it. But I could see the writing on the wall with Shape of Water. It was those ballots from Chris that just said, and the backlash I would hear on the ground in LA. And this is, I was warning you all about it, but I don't think anyone was taking it seriously. For example, one day I just walked into the newsroom of KTLA, the independent TV station in LA, and I was talking with Sam Rubin and some of the producers there, and it just massive bashing of 3 billboards took over. It just took over. Everyone in the newsroom shouting how much of this, I didn't like this, I didn't. And you would hear that refrain everywhere, wherever you went. There was great admiration for the film, but there was on the ground this kind of pushback that not as ferocious as La La Land, and certainly even lesser than The Revenant, but it was clear. And I just thought, oh, this movie's in so much trouble. And I couldn't bail, but I didn't want to bail either because I liked the movie so much. And I think it is the best movie of the year. So this is the danger we all face when we make this decision to be pundits, to go out on a limb, and that is you get emotionally invested in things and wishing will make it so, we kind of think. In my case, I couldn't abandon, but I knew, I remember us talking the night before, Paul, and just saying, oh, this is 3 billboards is in big trouble.
But then I pulled out the fact that Barbra Streisand listed it as one of her favorite films.
Yes, the only 3 movies she named it that had a Best Picture nomination. That was her likely vote. So probably Babs was the only vote for.
It always comes back to Barbara.
Everything.
Even Jimmy Kimmel had to bring in Barbara. So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone. That was so much. It was a fun award season, and it never stops at Golder because, as you said, we're moving on to Emmys and soon Critics' Choice TV Awards, and so.
So make your predictions at home and try to beat us because you probably are the best experts, and we're just giving the best performance by a wannabe expert.